Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the FAA webinar series. Wes, can you hear me just okay there on the back end?
Yep, you're good to go. Hear you loud and clear.
All right, as well as see the screen that we're presenting here?
Yep, good to go.
Phenomenal. Thank you, sir. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the FAA webinar series here on Red Hat Training. As many of you do know me, my name is Jeff Thompson, and I'm the training manager, your training manager here, assigned to support the FAA. Very particularly exciting role for me is I've actually worked to support the FAA from an inside account management perspective since about 2020. So always great to have an opportunity to revisit the team and see how we might be able to help support you and your teammates moving forward. So we really appreciate everyone taking the time today to attend the event and learn about the various training options available to the FAA, both inside and outside of the enterprise agreement that is currently encompasses Red Hat technology here. Before we do dive any deeper, I want to note to everyone here that everyone is muted on the call outside of the presenters. We absolutely do welcome questions during the presentation and simply ask that you put them into the Q&A section part of the chat here. And we're fortunate enough to have our learning experience specialist, Rick Chavez, here on the back end, as well as our solutions architect, Wes Urquhart, who will be helping to answer any questions that come up during the presentation. With that, let's jump into our agenda today and see what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to kick things off here today by diving into an overview of the Red Hat training and enablement options currently available within the enterprise agreement for the FAA. We'll start by talking about the Red Hat Learning subscription that is directly available to all of you right now at no cost. And then we also dive into the group private training options that are available outside of the agreement. From there, we're going to talk about how you can exactly request a Red Hat Learning subscription on your very own through the DLT portal that we've set up for the FAA. Rick Chavez is then going to come on and talk about his direct work and primary responsibility of supporting the FAA from a training perspective. Finally, our solutions architect, Wes here, is going to hop on to dive into some of the relevant training paths that'll be most impactful to the areas of technology that you and your teams are working on here at the FAA. Primarily Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Ansible Automation Platform, and OpenShift Administration. Finally, we'll dive into the landscape of technology training as it stands today. And with that, I will pass it over to my colleague Rick Chavez to introduce himself and talk about some of his work supporting the FAA here.
Sounds great, Jeff. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning and go through some of these very important slides with us. There's going to be a lot of takeaways today, so I'm going to try and highlight and foot stomp just a few on these next two slides. My name is Rick Chavez, as Jeff has said. I've been with Red Hat for about 3 years now, and about a year ago, I decided to cross over and join the training team and try this role called the Learning Experience Specialist. And what I really love about it is it allows me to be a dedicated resource to you, to everyone in this room and everyone within the FAA to help you reach your learning goals through our training platform. That's ultimately what my goal is going to be in my job and my responsibility is, but I am your dedicated learning experience specialist, and I'm going to help you tailor as you need based off your schedules and availability, your own training plan so that you can reach those goals. There's a lot of stuff on this slide. For example, the Red Hat Learning subscriptions. What I do there is I definitely go into that and show you exactly how to utilize the platform and some of the awesome features that it offers. We talk about the instructor-led trainings and set you up for those or set up your teams for those. I will help with all the logistics, the planning, and making sure that it's a successful launch from start to finish. As I talked about just a few minutes ago, I also help tailor those custom training plans. We can have one-on-one meetings. We can do team meetings where we sit together and figure out what is it that the goal of your organization or your team is, and what are some of the trainings that we can offer or even build up in our skills paths to help you guys get there in a certain amount of time. And then, of course, it's always good to know and understand exactly where we're going, where we started, where we're at, and where we plan on being. And so through consumption reporting, we'll be able to show the progress of not only yourself as a learner, but also your teams if you choose to see that information. And we do that on a monthly basis as well. And then most importantly, that customer support and customer success. I look at that more as a customer success bullet point. And my job, as long as everybody on this team, like Wes and Jeff and the team, is to make sure that this is a great, seamless training experience for you based on your availability and what your goals ultimately are. You hear me say that over and over, and that would be my foot stomp for this particular slide, is that I'm your dedicated resource. You can reach out to me anytime. And my job is to make sure that we tailor this training so that you can reach your goals. Jeff, if you can go to the next slide, please. These are just two of our focal points, two of our focus points that I'm going to be looking at per se. But there's a lot more, and I'd love to get into that with you on a one-on-one meeting. I do send out emails. In fact, you'll be getting one from me in just about a week or two, where we'll have an opportunity to kind of set up a one-on-one 15, 20-minute meeting, and we can go through these bullet points and many more, more in depth. But most importantly, we look at training management. I'm looking at all the utilization. How are we utilizing? What can we do to increase that utilization? How do we get more awareness? Showing you everything that the platform has to offer, and then of course teaching you how to jump into there and get your training started. Looking at those paths that we talked about, the customized training paths that meet your personal schedules, and then of course offering that support. The second portion of that would be learner engagement, and that's where I put a lot of my focus. I'm all about building relationships and making sure that you know that you have a friendly face to talk to on the other line, not just a robot. And I'll be there to help you every step of the way, whether it's just looking at some of the resources or just talking through some of your questions that you might have. I have a lot of great folks that are with me, like Wes and Jeff, that I can reach to if I don't have the answer for you. Ultimately making sure that you have a point of contact no matter what your question or concern might be. Collaboration is key for me. And then finally, looking at those consumption campaigns, you're going to see a lot of emails come out from me, not a crazy amount, but enough to where you know I'm here, I exist, and I'm trying to make sure that everybody has me on your brain so that if you have any questions at any time, you can reach out and make sure that we get your questions answered. Jeff, before I pass it over to you, I'm going to ask if there's any questions. You can put it in the chat, or you can, I don't know, Jeff, can they come off mute if they need to?
They can't, Rick, but if everybody has any questions, please do put them in the Q&A or in the chat there. We absolutely will be monitoring this throughout the event.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Again, like I said, I'm your dedicated resource to ensuring that you derive the maximum value from your Red Hat training investment and platform. We're all in this together. I want to make sure that you get to your goals as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So please reach out anytime. I'm here for you. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Rick. Much appreciated there. And to the additional folks that have just jumped on, we very much appreciate it as well, guys. So I'm going to take a step back here and let's walk through why this is important to you. So something very important to note here within the FAA is each employee within the FAA does currently have access to the Red Hat Learning subscription here in a standard variety. So why this is important to you, we'll talk about the Red Hat Learning subscription later on in the presentation more in depth, but really it is your all-in-one shop for self-paced training here at Red Hat, which provides access to all of Red Hat's training courses and content, as well as certification exams behind the scenes. This is something that is typically is procured outside of enterprise agreements, but fortunately for the teammates here, this is something that is currently available to you guys and your teams at no cost. And it's also something that you guys can request via yourself through the FAA DLT portal that we've configured for the FAA. So as you can see here on the slide, there's really 4 steps that you have to go through to request a Red Hat Learning subscription via the portal. So on the left here, you can see that we have a link here for the FAA DLT portal, as well as an area to log in. If you have not requested portal access yet, we will be making sure to pass along all this information following the presentation. But the FAA DLT portal is a really phenomenal area to be able to request software or training software for yourself directly through this portal in a very efficient manner. So you can see that once you have this account created, what you're going to have to do is scroll along the left side over to request. And then down at the bottom, you will see something that says SAR or TAR. And what those acronyms signify is subscription agreement request. That would be for any Red Hat products such as Ansible, OpenShift, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Satellite, etc. That would all be under subscription agreement request and would be something that you guys right now have the ability to request for your team and your environment as needed. For the training side of things, any Red Hat Learning subscription that you would like to request for yourself or your teammates is going to go through TAR or training agreement request. So once you click on the training agreement request here, it will pop up on the right here, this training subscription request form, where all you really have to do at this point is input the various details behind what program you support, what your name is, email, phone number, Red Hat login, etc. And from there, we will make the backend modifications to actually have this sent over to your account and assigned from there. From there, Rick will be working with you on the back end to make sure that you're set up in terms of a custom learning path, understanding how to use the technology, understanding if there's any teammates that might benefit from this training as well, etc. This is something that we haven't gone over in the past, but it's something that I wanted to make sure that we covered today, as this is currently a very, very efficient process, and it's something that I think more people can likely be taking advantage of in the future for their Red Hat training needs. So again, tying this slide up, we absolutely will make sure to pass along all of this following the presentation. If you ever do need any help in terms of actually understanding how to use the portal, please do reach out to Rick and I, who are always happy to help be a resource on the back end. Moving along from there, I'd like to take a step back and look at training within the technology landscape as a whole. So as we all know, the IT industry is complex and constantly evolving. And a common theme that we always hear here on the training side is our customers needing to become more agile while also innovating, oftentimes with the scarcity of resources becoming more of a prominent issue for organizations. So sometimes this comes out in terms of embracing new technologies, such as cloud or automation. But as time goes by, it has become much more of a need for organizations to become more efficient as organizational and security requirements ramp up, much like, for example, how zero trust is being discussed all across the FAA with the directive that was released about a year and a half ago. All in all, it's clear that expectations in the IT world are constantly increasing, as the scarcity of skills can oftentimes hinder advancements in productivity here. One of the biggest things that we've noticed when customers attempt to transform is how the lack of IT skills will impact an organization. One 2018 report we did from IT executives remarked that 26% of these executives note that their largest impediment to transforming is the lack of IT skills or talent. In another KPMG survey from 2018, 65% of IT leaders reported that a lack of technology and skills in their organization prevented them from being able to maintain the pace of change that was needed for their organization. I would say that this is really why we're seeing more and more, especially post-pandemic, more investments in training and enablement in customers across the federal government to alleviate some of these issues that we are running into. From industry research, it's very apparent that training and enablement of the workforce in the tech world is a continuous need across the spectrum. With technologies constantly evolving and new versions of software being released periodically, product knowledge has become increasingly important for organizations which are looking to innovate and transform. On top of these relevant skills will allow an employee to be far more productive and marketable for any organization looking to make these transformations in the future. Much how the FAA is currently diving into the automation and container orchestration projects right now that we're oftentimes speaking with you folks about. And this is really where our Red Hat training team comes in. The Red Hat training offers real-world skills development through a variety of courses and exams that develop and validate the skills needed to adopt new technologies. The learning subscription can be an immensely beneficial tool to drive innovation and your team's transformational goals on the back end. We currently provide hundreds of options here to train yourself as an individual or a team, and we're really just excited to discuss some of them with you today, especially to have Wes talk about some of the learning paths that will be most relevant to the team moving forward. Moving forward from here, prior to beginning your Red Hat training journey, we highly recommend that you begin by taking the Red Hat Skills Assessment. A Red Hat Skills Assessment will allow you to discover where you're at with Red Hat training and what courses will be most beneficial for you or your team to take moving forward. So a great part about the skills assessment here is this is something that you can take both individually and as a group, which can provide very valuable information when discerning which training is going to be most impactful for you and your team to take. The great part about taking this as a group is it actually consolidates all the team results information into one, and then can provide some direct examples of what classes will be most impactful for the team or individuals to take moving forward, especially considering that there are likely some skills gaps with certain team members. I'd say the best part about the skills assessment is they do cover the entire training portfolio. They're available free of charge to anybody who would like to take them, and typically take no more than 20 minutes to take. Very useful information to have on hand moving forward when deciding that and understanding what class is going to be most relevant for folks to take. So now that we've talked about Red Hat training from a back end, I'd like to talk to you guys right now about the current two options that we provide for the FAA for training. And that is self-paced training here on the left using the Red Hat Learning subscription, and live private training on the right, which is really a training option for folks that are looking for instructor-led training in a private capacity. Before we do dive deeper into these, I'd like to point out that within the enterprise agreement within the FAA, there are currently an allotted amount of Red Hat Learning subscriptions here on the left side that FAA employees and contractors can use today at no charge to beef up their training skills. The private training classes that we'll discuss later are negotiated outside of the training agreement between your team and Red Hat. Before we do move on here, it is very, very unique here for the FAA to be providing training to contractors here, and that's something that I would very much encourage folks to market out to the organization, to let their teammates know, let the folks that you work with know. This is something that is very unique, but it is something that is a really great benefit to contractors that are currently working on the FAA as well. So diving deeper into the Red Hat Learning subscription, the Red Hat Learning subscription is our flagship training option available to folks here at the FAA that are looking to train at their own self-pace. It provides access to all of Red Hat's 60+ courses and is really remarked as the Netflix of Red Hat here, as it provides access to whatever you want, the ability to watch them however you want, and just generally gives you a ton of flexibility on the back end to train at your own pace however you'd like to. Some other fantastic tangible benefits of the learning subscription is that it provides 5 unique certification exams, the ability to retake each of these certification exams if needed, 400 hours of lab time, and some really great extras like video classroom, access to expert chat, the ability to create a custom learning dashboard, etc. And that's also for your individual or for your team. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later on in the presentation. On top of this, as we've mentioned multiple times, and we'll probably mention it again, the learning subscription is already included for you within the FAA's agreement with Red Hat. You can always reach out to myself, Rick Chavez, or Nina to be able to be assigned one of these on the back end. Moving on from there, I think it'd be great at this point to dive into some of the features of the Red Hat Learning subscription and why they are important for you. And let's go through these pretty quickly. So Red Hat takes very seriously the need to provide up-to-date content for students taking our training. And as the leader in the open source community, we absolutely understand how fast the IT landscape is evolving. And we're constantly working to ensure that our classes provide timely and accurate information on the topics discussed. Our classes are so consistently updated to the point that 42% of the content in the Red Hat Learning subscription did not exist up until the last year. I think the theme of consistently providing updated information within the technology landscape is something that will continue to resonate throughout this presentation as we go on. Through the Red Hat Learning subscription, we also provide you the ability to prescribe the most appropriate training for yourself and then prioritize as to when you want to take this. We also have subject matter experts on hand, like Rick and Wes here, that are always available to recommend training options and develop custom learning paths for you and your team. All you have to do at the end of the day is ask. The learning subscription also allows you to have the earliest access to courses and labs that are currently in development. So as I recently mentioned, developing new course content is of the utmost importance to our training team, and we truly make it our goal to introduce a new course every quarter, every 2 quarters, however we can. So a couple great examples here of courses that were recently released are DO467 here at the top is our course on managing enterprise automation with Ansible Automation Platform. This is a course that was just released in September of 2022, and is something that is currently available via the learning subscription. We also have a couple great courses based on ROSA, that is OpenShift on AWS, as well as our product of OpenShift on Azure, some classes that are specifically dedicated to these two concepts within the learning subscription as well. If you guys have any questions about these specific courses, please do feel free to reach out to us on the back end. The learning subscription is also built for a variety of learning styles here, as you can see. You can use the course PDFs within them, video classrooms within, or even the video courses available to learn the content however you want. At the end of the day, it truly is up to you. Another great feature of the learning subscription is the ability to use the searchability within it to search by keyword, products, or specific technologies. This makes it very easy to identify information within the course PDF textbooks that will help out along the way, or even help to visualize the relevant classes for you to take. There's actually a great tool that also allows you to filter by keywords or technologies if you're having a tough time tracking down information on a specific topic. So diving into why this is important from a management perspective. So as a manager, you absolutely have the ability to track your team's progress here through detailed consumption reports. These reports dive into what courses are of the most interest to your team, how far along your teammates have progressed within them, and then finally, details on exams. It's a great tool that I like to point out to ensure that you and your team receive the return on investment on your training while ensuring that everyone is staying engaged. We also have the ability to deliver reports to a team lead on a routine basis, something like bi-weekly, or even as requested on an ad hoc basis. Really, whatever it is, up to you at the end of the day. So as we talked about earlier, a phenomenal feature about the Red Hat Learning subscription is the ability to create your own custom unique learning path. We've always taken this very seriously because presenting relevant skills paths to our customer base allows us to cater to your specific team's needs. Courses throughout the Red Hat portfolio are constantly being updated, and diving further into the custom learning paths, there's actually a visual here on the right that allows you to build your own custom learning path and shows you exactly how this would be done. So you could build your own path by topic, technology, or even general areas of interest. Using the filter by section here makes it very easy to fill out and find exactly what you're looking for. And always remember, we always have a great team here on the back end to help out however you guys would like. So moving beyond the custom skills paths, arguably the best component of the learning subscription is that it provides you the ability to certify yourself on Red Hat technologies, which is a very important distinction within the technology industry. So you can use your 5 exam vouchers within the subscription to certify yourself on more than 40 Red Hat courses. Whether you want to be certified as a Red Hat certified system administrator, an OpenShift administrator, or even a Red Hat certified engineer, this option is great for professionals who are looking to build marketable skills to advance their career development. Something to note is these exams absolutely are performance-based, and they provide you the opportunity to display what you've learned throughout the course that you've taken. Just in case you do need it, you do have unique retakes on exams that you can use. Finally, once you pass an exam, you can obtain a digital credential to proudly display, whether it's on your email, the Credly interface, or even your LinkedIn profile. These certification exams are, of course, available within the standard tier of their learning subscription that the FAA currently has access to. Here is a great example of the digital credential, which is developed by our partner Credly for the Red Hat Certified System Administrator certification. Now, I would say that this is our most common certification here, and you can obtain this by taking a combination of 1 or 2 system administration classes. Credly here is the best way to authenticate and to market your digital certification. If you're unfamiliar with this interface, our team is always happy to help you set it up, as it's a very useful feature to be able to market your skill set to the technology community here. So you're probably thinking, Jeff's been talking a lot about Red Hat training. He's been talking a lot about the Red Hat Learning subscription. Why is this important to me? This sounds like a ton of work to put in. So why is it important to you? The Learning subscription is not only a great way to stay up to date on industry technologies impacting the federal government, but also an opportunity to obtain marketable industry skills that will increase your social capital as a professional. Maybe it'll make you more attractive for a promotion down the line. maybe it'll make you more attractive to positions externally of the FAA within the federal government. Really, at the end of the day, we're here to help build up your skill sets as a team. The ability to obtain these industry certifications is critical to consider and provides concrete validation of your skill set here. On top of this, research we've done shows that learning subscription increases employee retention while also providing access to some of the technologies here at Red Hat, as we've mentioned prior. Now, I'd like to take my remaining few minutes here before passing along to Wes to talk about the second training option that we have available to the FAA, private group training. Private group training is a very extremely useful tool for your team if you're interested in obtaining the same hands-on learning in a more engaging setting with a private instructor. So with private training, you have access to the same 60 courses that we offer, but you also have the ability to deliver these classes in a myriad of ways. So you can tailor the course content to exactly what your team's needs are if desired. You can also have a ton of flexibility just in general to schedule, to take this class, however you want to do it by scheduling this through a private group training option. And what I mean by this is you can enroll any number of students from 6 to 12 for most classes, but we also have the ability to cater these classes all the way up to 18 and 20 for some of our specific classes. You can also decide exactly how you'd like the class to be delivered, whether on-site at your office or one of our training facilities, or even using a virtual environment as we're in now, using the virtual labs feature. Now, obviously with the pandemic, we've seen a shift in how these courses are being taken in a more virtual capacity, but we are absolutely still seeing the demand and the need here for instructor-led training to really receive that big bang for your buck in terms of the training that you guys are looking to obtain for your teams. Branching more into that, I'd like to highlight that virtual delivery is a really great option to consider if your team is remote or spread out across the contiguous US, which I assume most of us are here. The great thing about virtual trainings is it provides the exact same content, labs, and instructors to make sure that the class is delivered just as if it were on site. It also provides you with the additional flexibility to cater to your team and can all in all be an attractive option depending on what you're looking for. Something interesting to point out here is that attendees consistently rate Red Hat virtual training just as high as our in-person Red Hat training experiences. You also have the ability to add certification exams to these private group training courses once they conclude, if that is a priority to you. Now, we've had some great training courses over the years with the FAA, both on-site and virtual. I believe we've been up to Oklahoma City. I believe we've been up to Jersey as well. We're always eager to connect on this if this is something that is of interest for the team here. So all in all, concluding these options at the end of the day, it is really up to you to decide which of these learning methods best suits you and your team. The learning subscription available to the FAA right now provides access to all of Red Hat's online and video classroom courses and labs. It also provides great features such as instructor office hours, certification exams, and the ability to create a custom learning path for yourself. Although the learning subscription does provide video courses, it's important to note that it is entirely self-paced, meaning that you will not have a private instructor on hand, although you will have access to the expert chat feature if needed. You also have access to the office hours feature if you have specific questions regarding content or even using the search tool within to find out exactly what you're looking for. The second option that we discussed today is our private group training option here. This is a really great option for you if you're looking for a more intimate, engaging experience with a private instructor for a group of people. Now, something important to note here is we can deliver these classes both on-site and virtual, and the result and expectations will be the same. Now, before I move it on to Wes here, if you have any questions about what we've gone over, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will absolutely get back to you. I'd like to pass it over to my colleague Wes here, who is a resident solutions architect on our team, who's going to talk to you about some of the few learning paths that are available to the FAA. And with that, Wes, I'll pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. I'll go ahead and share my screen, give you a break on the sticks there. Cool. Just a quick confirmation. Can folks see the exact same slide they should have just been seeing and hear me okay?
I can see it just fine, Wes.
Perfect. Awesome. So we'll get started. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Wes Urquhart. I'm a solution architect in our North America training and certification team. So specializing in all things technical as it regards to our training courses. So love talking with customers like you all about ways you can further your learning goals and ambitions through Red Hat training. So with that being said, I've got a sampling of learning paths that are currently available to you in the Red Hat Learning subscription. And I want to talk you through just some basic starting points for some of our most popular technologies. With that being said, if at any point you have a question about anything I'm walking through, or if I get through everything and we haven't gotten to a technology that interests you, do you have a course on X or do you have a course on Y? Please, please, please feel free to post it in the chat or in the Q&A. I've got both of them up on another screen, and I would be more than happy to go into those for you and answer. So with that being said, let's kick it off and let's get started. It all starts with RHEL. Everything typically starts with Linux when it comes to Red Hat technologies at the bare foundation. It is at the kernel of everything we do, pun intended. So just a brief orientation to these slides you're about to see. Typically they work from top down in ascending order of proficiency or difficulty. In terms of the color coding, what you really need to key on is the red is a Red Hat training course available to you in the Red Hat Learning subscription, which is a full, very substantial course that could be anywhere from 24 to 40 hours worth of work with hands-on labs and lecture and book. The teal color is an exam that is associated with that course proceeding. And this gray color, which is where we'll start here, are our free technical overviews available on training.redhat.com. They're not in your subscription, but they are completely free of charge to anybody, whether you have a subscription or not. If you go to training.redhat.com, typically they're just a couple of hours of video content on, what is this product or technology? What is this particular concept and how does it apply to the real world and why should I care about it? So real basic overviews there. So in this case, when we're talking about Linux, it's our Red Hat Enterprise Linux technical overview, which gives you an idea of, what's Linux? Why does it matter? Why should you care, right? What's an operating system? What's the Linux kernel? The real basics of what is Linux. From there, though, we get into our most popular courses. I'm going to stick with the left side for now, and then I'll talk about the right in a second. But first, we have our RH124 Red Hat System Administration 1 course, and then our Red Hat System Administration 2 course, RH134. Both of those courses are teaching you sort of the fundamentals through to the intermediate and advanced concepts of being a Linux system administrator. So RH124, I kind of like to call my command line survival skills course. So how do I get around in a terminal window? How do I do some basic commands in Linux? How do I navigate a file system? How to create new files? How do I administer different access rights? How do I create users in groups? What are UCO permissions? Some basic networking information, some basic storage information, some basic stuff around text editing. All that real basic information you need to know to be comfortable in the command line. From there, you have the option to take the PE124, which is a practice test. You don't really get a certification out of this, but if you want to benchmark your progress on the way to your Red Hat Certified System Administrator certification, you can absolutely do so by taking that exam. RH134 is next. Like I mentioned, that's our Sysadmin 2 course. That's going to build off of Sysadmin 1. So let's talk about some bash scripting. Let's talk about some SE Linux concepts. Let's talk about some advanced networking, some advanced storage. Let's talk about containerization and running containers locally from the command line. Those sorts of concepts you need to know in order to really, truly get your hands around an enterprise Linux ecosystem. And then EX200, Red Hat Certified System Administrator, or RHCSA, you may commonly hear it referred to as, is our most popular certification. It's the foundation of what we do. It is a Linux exam. And just to take a second to talk about our Red Hat certifications, which again are included with your Red Hat Learning subscription, 5 unique vouchers with conditional retakes if you fail. And again, failure is not a bad thing. Failure is your first step on the way to passing, right? That's what our head of certification loves to say. Our exams are completely hands-on, fully practical, fully lab-based. You are thrust into, in this case, a Linux environment and told to administer it with a variety of different tasks. You have to be able to meet all the objectives that are stated on the exam pages online. So if you click this link here, which we'll give the slides out after this presentation, you'll be taken to our website where you'll be able to see all the objectives for those various exams. Just make sure you study those on the way to a certification and you'll be good to go. But anyway, EX200 is going to certify you in Linux administration. Something to point out here is I've kind of neglected the right side, which is our RH199 Rapid Track course. Our Sysadmin 1 and Sysadmin 2 courses are about 40 hours worth of material each. They're pretty dense. What we do with our Rapid Track course is skim that down to just the 40 hours of flyby material an experienced Linux administrator needs to know in order to pass an exam that is rel focused. It is not meant for somebody who's brand new to Linux that wants to upskill just quicker and take a shortcut. That won't work. You're going to be lost from the word go. But if you're a Linux administrator that's been doing this for a long time, or maybe you were in Linux for years, for a while, and you haven't touched it in a few years, this is a great option for you because it assumes you're comfortable with the basic navigation of a file system and some of the more basic concepts of Linux and managing an operating system, and really mostly focuses on the more advanced concepts from our level 2 course with a couple of chapters from our level 1 course. So it is a mix. It's prepping for the exam, but it's not for everyone. And again, if you have questions, I've got the Q&A window open. I've got the chat window open. Please feel free to ask, but that's our Linux path. From there, we have a lot more options for advanced Linux learning. So if you're someone who's already got that RHCSA or who's already an experienced admin and says, I want to do more, I want to be challenged further, your wish is my command. We've got a variety of different options here for you. The couple I'll highlight, though, are RH342, our Linux Diagnostics and Troubleshooting course, which is exactly what it sounds like. And then if you're interested in sort of extending your deployment and sort of managing your ecosystem, I would encourage you to look at Satellite, Red Hat Satellite 6 Administration RH403. Okay, let's talk Ansible. For those that are interested in automation with Ansible Automation Platform, this is the slide for you. So this slide looks a little different than the last one because Ansible is a little bit different than Linux in terms of how people approach it and from what backgrounds. I'll explain in a second. The color scheme is basically still the same. So you've got the DO007 Ansible Technical Overview online, again, freely available at training.redhat.com. It is just a couple hours of videos that explain what is automation, what is Ansible, what is automation platform, why should I care, right? So if you're brand new to it, don't know what Ansible is, it's a good place to start. But if you want to really sink your teeth into Ansible and start writing playbooks, that is where you will take one of the next 3 classes. Notice I said one of the next 3. Ansible is an automation tool that can be used to automate just about anything. And as such, we understand that folks from various backgrounds are going to be approaching Ansible with different intentions in mind, which means we need to teach folks to speak Ansible using examples that they're more comfortable with. So in this case, we have 3 separate entry points into our Ansible curriculum that all teach just about the same thing, just using different examples. You learn how to write a playbook. What's a role? What's a module? What's an inventory? What's a fact? What's a variable? What's a secret? How do I manage them? All of those basics you need in order to understand Ansible from a command line point of view, you are going to get out of each of these 3 classes, plus a chapter that's domain specific. We're not teaching you how to be an expert in Windows automation, for example. We're teaching you how to use Ansible using Windows examples, and then we give you a chapter on Windows administration with Ansible as well to sort of round out the class and sort of use that knowledge. So that's DO417, our Windows automation with Red Hat Ansible class. Our Linux course, sort of working to the left here, is RH294, Red Hat Enterprise Linux Automation with Ansible. So same idea, teaches you all those same concepts, just using Linux, and gives you some Linux administration tips using Ansible. Same deal with network devices, Ansible for Network Automation, DO457, teaches you the basic of command line Ansible, along with network device examples. Something cool to point out here, in terms of being up to date and using our learning subscription, RH294 is by far and away the most up to date of these 3 classes, but the networking course is not far behind. And for those of you with an active learning subscription, if you go to that handy dandy early access button, the blue one that you'll see on your learning subscription homepage, you will see DO457 in that early access bin. It is underway in terms of being updated to the latest and greatest. So if you want to go play with what that class will look like once it's up to date on automation platform, you can get a glimpse into the future. DO417 is coming as well soon. No direct date on that yet, nothing in early access yet, but it will be updated soon. Okay, we move down. Once we've taught you to speak Ansible, everyone can come together into the same class and learn the advanced concepts together. DO374 is the first advanced course, which is developing advanced automation with Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. That's advanced command line functions, along with certain execution environment concepts, along with a chapter or 2 on controller and automation platform architecture. DO467 goes into all things automation controller, which is the new version of Tower, which is the graphical user interface. How do I install it? How do I provision users and groups? How do I pull workflows, logs, connect via REST API? All that good stuff is in DO467. And then the exams along with each are kind of tied there in the deal. Again, any questions or comments, please feel free to post in the chat in the Q&A. I've got it up, and so I'm happy to answer as they come. Cool, let's talk OpenShift next. So we've talked about 2 of our 3 big pillar products. Why not round it out with a third? Our OpenShift curriculum is divided into 2 separate main pillars. One side is developers, which we'll get to in a minute, and the other side is operators or administrators or engineers, platform teams, infrastructure teams, basically the folks that are logging into OpenShift and making sure the lights are still on. So how does that curriculum work? Well, again, we have a technical overview, containers, Kubernetes, and Red Hat OpenShift technical overview, DO080, available for free at training.redhat.com. It was recently updated, so if you just want to get the lowdown on what containers even are or what Kubernetes is, feel free to log into that. Then we actually start with the more substantial classes. So DO180, Red Hat OpenShift Administration 1, Managing Containers and Kubernetes. For any of you that may have looked at this class, last year, I advise you go back and look again. It got a massive overhaul, update, rewrite, and change in April of 2023. It is now a completely operations-focused course. We jump right into Kubernetes and OpenShift from square one, and we walk you through what it means to be a tier 1 operator in OpenShift. How do I fight the daily fires? How do I get around? How do I do some basic troubleshooting tips and tricks? That's the first course. PE 180 is an optional preliminary exam if you do choose to take it, much like our PE 124 from our Linux learning path. DO 280 is all things OpenShift administration. So it takes a step back and it says, okay, you now know how to fight the daily fires. Let's start thinking ahead. Let's talk about authentication, authorization. Let's talk about upgrading and patching. Let's talk about monitoring. Let's talk about some of those configuration things you need to think of if you're looking forward as a true administrator. And then EX280 is the Certified Specialist in OpenShift Administration exam, which requires knowledge from both DO180 and DO280. Not to leave my developers hanging, this is where my heart lies too. This is our OpenShift developer path, right? And so we've got 2 technical overviews for the developers here, the same DO080, and then microservice architectures as well in DO092. Then our level 1 class is DO188, Introduction to Containers with Podman. This is a command line containers course. It's how do I run containers on my local machine? How do I build my own container file with a container image? How do I push and pull images from a repository? How do I build a container network? How do I create multi-container applications, some basic storage with containers, etc.? It's just all things containers all the time. Very fun class. Does have a little bit of OpenShift in it at the end, but it's mostly a container course. The associated certification is Red Hat Certified Specialist in Containers, or EX188, a fun exam. I've got that one. DO288 is Red Hat OpenShift Development 2, Containerizing Apps. Okay, if we've taught you how to use containers, now let's talk about how to use them with OpenShift. How do I containerize an existing application? How do I build an application specific for a container? How do I run the build process on OpenShift? How do I deploy on OpenShift? All of those good things you need to know as a developer running in an OpenShift ecosystem, rounded out with EX288, which is our Certified Specialist in OpenShift Application Development exam. And that is all I have from a learning path point of view. Again, that's just a sampling. That's not all of the courses that are included in your learning subscription. So if you have any questions on any technologies that we didn't post here and you're curious about those, please feel free to post them in the chat for the Q&A. We've still got about 10 minutes left here before our time is up. So we did leave plenty of time for Q&A and chat. So again, I want to open the floor and thank you all for your time. Or if you want me to go back and review anything that I already covered, I'm more than happy to do that as well. But with that said, Jeff, I'd like to bring you back on to see if you have any closing words while we wait for anyone to curiously type any questions or chats away in the Q&A or the chat box. If you've got any closing words, I'd love to hand the microphone back over to you.
Thank you, Wes. Very much appreciate you always having on board to shed some knowledge on all these items. Very much appreciate that. I don't see any questions popping up here. To anybody who did put a message in the chat or the Q&A here, we will definitely make sure to be in contact with you following the presentation. But I absolutely encourage everyone, please do reach out in the future if we can help out in any way with your training and enablement journey here with Red Hat. With that, I hope you guys have a great rest of the morning and a great afternoon, and we look forward to chatting with you soon. Thank you.